My beloved child, pause for a moment and listen carefully, because something quietly significant has just unfolded behind the scenes of your life. There is a conversation that recently took place, a conversation you did not witness, yet its meaning is deeply connected to you. Somewhere, in a quiet and honest moment, someone who has been carrying emotions they could no longer hide finally opened their heart. They spoke to a relative they trust. Someone close enough to hear the truth they have been holding inside for so long. And the moment those words left their lips, everything began to shift. You might not feel it yet. You might not see any obvious sign. But a small turning point has already happened. Don't skip this moment, because what was shared in that conversation reveals far more than you realize. For a long time, this person has been thinking about you in silence. Not casually, not as a passing thought, but with a depth that even surprised them. They tried to keep those feelings private, hoping they would fade or become easier to ignore. But something changed recently. A memory resurfaced. A moment between you and them replayed in their mind again and again. Perhaps it was something you said, a look you gave, or simply the quiet way your presence made them feel understood. And suddenly the feelings they once tried to silence became impossible to ignore. That is when they turned to their relative. Not for gossip. Not for distraction. But for guidance, and maybe even a little courage. They said something that surprised even themselves. They admitted that you are not just someone they think about occasionally, you are someone who has been quietly reshaping their thoughts about the future. Yes, the future. Because during that conversation, they didn't only speak about their feelings. They spoke about their plans. Stay till the end. Because this part matters more than you expect. The relative listened carefully as this person explained how they had been observing small signs around them. Not dramatic signs, but the kind of subtle moments that feel meaningful when someone truly cares. They spoke about how your path and theirs seem to cross in ways that feel strangely timed. They wondered aloud if perhaps meeting you was not random at all, but part of a larger unfolding moment in their life. And as the conversation continued, something surprising happened. The relative didn't laugh. They didn't dismiss the feelings. Instead, they became very thoughtful. They asked one simple question that changed the tone of the entire discussion. What are you planning to do about it? That question lingered in the room. For a few seconds, this person remained quiet, because answering it meant admitting something very real. They took a deep breath and revealed something they had been quietly considering. A step. A step that could change the dynamic between you and them. Don't skip, because what they shared next is the part that may soon touch your life in ways you didn't expect. They explained that they no longer want to remain in uncertainty. They are tired of wondering what might happen if they never express what they feel. For too long they believed the timing wasn't right. Or that perhaps you might not see them the same way. But now, something inside them has shifted. And this shift is why you are hearing this message today. Because when someone finally begins to move from silence toward action, the energy around that decision begins to ripple outward. The relative noticed this change immediately. They saw determination where there once was hesitation. They heard sincerity where there once was doubt. And they told this person something that stayed in their mind long after the conversation ended. You will never know what could grow from this connection unless you give it a chance. Those words stayed with them. And that is when they quietly shared the plan they have been forming. Not something reckless, not something rushed, but a thoughtful step they believe could open the door to something meaningful between you. Something huge is waiting for you. But it begins with a moment of courage that is still building inside them. Right now, they are watching the timing. They are paying attention to small signals around them. And they are preparing for a moment when reaching out will finally feel right. You may not know when it will happen. But the decision to move closer to that moment has already begun. And the most fascinating part? The relative they confided in believes this connection between you holds more potential than either of you fully realize. But what exactly did this person say about the next step they are planning? What moment are they quietly preparing for? And why does their relative believe that when this step happens, it could change the entire direction of your connection? Don't skip, because the next part reveals what they truly intend to do next. Something quietly powerful began unfolding the moment that conversation ended. After speaking to their relative, this person did not walk away unchanged. In fact, the silence that followed their confession felt different, almost charged with meaning. Because once someone speaks the truth of their heart out loud, it becomes impossible to pretend those feelings are small. And that is exactly what happened. On their way home that day, your name remained in their thoughts. Not briefly, not casually, but with a clarity they had never felt before. They realized something that surprised even them. You were no longer just a possibility in their mind. You had become someone they could imagine standing beside in moments that truly matter. Don't skip this part, because what they realized next is something they had never admitted to anyone before. For a long time, they believed their feelings for you were simply admiration, or curiosity, or maybe just a connection that would slowly fade with time. But during that conversation with their relative, something deeper surfaced. They realized that when they imagine the future, your presence keeps appearing there. Unexpectedly. Naturally. As if the story they are writing in their mind refuses to move forward without you in it. And that realization made them pause. Because imagining a future with someone means taking a step that requires courage. Stay till the end, because the step they are preparing for is closer than you think. Later that evening, the relative they had spoken to reached out to them again. Not with pressure, but with quiet encouragement. They reminded this person of something simple yet powerful. Sometimes the right moment doesn't arrive on its own. Sometimes the right moment is created by the courage to begin. Those words stayed with them. And for the first time, this person allowed themselves to think seriously about what reaching out to you could mean. They thought about the first message they might send. They imagined the first honest conversation they might have with you. And in that quiet moment of reflection, they understood something surprising. The fear that once held them back had become smaller than the possibility of something beautiful beginning between you. Something huge is waiting for you, but it begins with the quiet decision they are forming right now. You see, during the conversation with their relative, they didn't just talk about feelings. They talked about timing. And timing is something they have been watching very closely. They believe certain connections appear at very specific moments in life, moments when both people are unknowingly becoming ready for each other. Their relative noticed this belief immediately. And they asked another question that revealed just how serious this person has become. If you truly believe this connection matters, when will you stop waiting? The question lingered again. Because the truth is, they have already chosen a moment. A moment they feel could be the right opportunity to open the door between you. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. But in a way that feels natural, sincere, and impossible to misunderstand. Don't skip, because this next detail reveals how carefully they are thinking about you. They want the moment to feel genuine. They don't want it to seem rushed or unexpected. Instead, they are waiting for a small opening, a natural chance for a conversation to begin. And when that moment appears, they intend to say something they have been holding back for longer than you realize. Something simple. Something honest. But something that could completely change the direction of your connection. The relative who listened to their confession believes this step will happen sooner than this person expects. Because once someone allows their heart to speak out loud, silence becomes harder and harder to maintain. And that is where things become truly fascinating. Because while this person is preparing for that moment, something else has been happening quietly. They have been noticing small reminders of you in the most unexpected places. A song. A phrase. A passing thought that appears out of nowhere. And each time it happens, the same idea returns to their mind. Maybe this connection was never meant to remain unspoken. Maybe it was always meant to reach this turning point. Stay till the end, because in the next part you will discover the surprising sign that made them realize they may not be able to wait much longer. And when you hear what happened next, you may understand why this person now believes the moment to reach you could arrive very soon. There are moments in life when a single, quiet realization changes everything. And this person has just stepped into one of those moments. Late one evening, while their mind was still replaying the conversation with their relative, something unusual happened. They found themselves reflecting on the very first time they truly noticed you. Not just seeing you, but noticing you. The memory appeared with surprising clarity. The way the moment felt, the atmosphere around it, even the small details they thought they had forgotten. And as they sat there thinking about it, a realization slowly unfolded. That moment did not feel ordinary. It felt meaningful. Almost as if something inside them recognized your presence before their mind even understood it. Don't skip this part, because what happened next made them pause in complete silence. While they were thinking about you, their relative sent them another message. It was simple. But it carried a question that felt impossible to ignore. Have you realized how often this person appears in your thoughts? That question lingered longer than expected. Because the answer was undeniable. You had become a constant thought in their quiet moments. Not in a distracting way, but in a way that felt strangely peaceful. And that realization opened a deeper understanding inside them. They were no longer wondering if their feelings were real. They were beginning to accept that something unique had quietly grown between you. Stay till the end. Because this next realization brought them closer to their decision than ever before. As the evening continued, they started thinking about the future again. But this time the thoughts were different. Instead of asking themselves, "What if this never happens?" they began asking a new question. What if this connection is actually meant to unfold? That shift in perspective changed everything. Because once someone begins to imagine the possibility of something beautiful, hesitation slowly loses its power. Something huge is waiting for you, and the moment that revealed it came in the most unexpected way. The following morning, they crossed paths with their relative again. And the relative noticed something immediately. There was a new calmness in their voice. A quiet certainty that had not been there before. So the relative asked them something directly. If the opportunity appeared tomorrow, would you tell them how you feel? For a few seconds, they didn't answer. Not because they were unsure, but because the answer had become very clear. Finally, they said something that surprised even themselves. Yes, I would. Those 3 words changed the direction of their thoughts completely. Because saying them out loud made the possibility feel real. And once a possibility becomes real in someone's heart, the next step begins forming naturally. Don't skip, because the step they are quietly preparing is closer than you think. Later that day, they started noticing small moments that reminded them of you again. But this time, those moments did not create hesitation. Instead, they created anticipation. They started imagining the exact moment they might finally speak openly with you. The tone of their voice. The honesty of their words. The calm way they would explain what they have been feeling all this time. And while thinking about it, a surprising thought appeared in their mind. What if you have felt this connection too, but have been waiting for the same moment? That possibility made their heart feel lighter than it had in a long time. Because suddenly the idea of reaching out no longer felt like a risk. It felt like a natural next chapter. And the relative who first listened to their confession believes something remarkable. They believe that the moment this person finally speaks to you, something unexpected will happen. Not dramatic. Not overwhelming. But deeply meaningful. A moment where 2 people finally recognize a connection that has been quietly growing for far longer than either of them realized. Stay till the end, because in the next part you will discover the specific moment they are now watching for. A moment they believe could be the perfect time to finally step forward and reveal what their heart has been holding all along. And when you hear what that moment is, you may begin to understand why they feel the time between silence and honesty is becoming shorter every single day. There is a quiet moment approaching, a moment so subtle that most people would never notice its importance. Yet for this person it feels like the doorway to something entirely new. Over the past few days, their thoughts about you have become clearer than ever before. What once felt uncertain now feels almost guided, as if every reflection keeps leading them back to the same realization. You matter to them more than they expected. And the most surprising part is this. The more they accept that truth, the more peaceful their heart becomes. Don't skip this moment, because what they discovered recently changed the way they see this connection forever. While speaking again with their relative, the conversation took a deeper turn. The relative asked something that seemed simple at first. "Why do you think this person keeps appearing in your life?" For a moment, they didn't know how to answer. But then they said something that revealed how deeply they have been thinking about you. They said that meeting you never felt random. There was always a quiet sense that your paths crossed for a reason they didn't yet understand. Stay till the end. Because the realization they shared next surprised even the relative who was listening. They admitted that every time they tried to move their attention elsewhere, their thoughts slowly returned to you again. Not because they forced it, but because something about your presence stays with them long after you are gone. Your words, your energy, even the way you carry yourself. All of it created a memory that refuses to fade. Something huge is waiting for you. And it began the moment they spoke one very honest sentence. They said, quietly but clearly, "I think this connection is meant to be explored." When those words were spoken, the relative smiled. Not because they were surprised, but because they had already sensed it. They had been observing how often your name appeared in their conversations. How often your memory appeared in their stories. And how every time they spoke about you, their voice carried a different kind of warmth. The relative then shared something thoughtful. They said that some connections are not loud or obvious at first. Sometimes they grow quietly, almost invisibly, until one day both people suddenly realize the bond has been there all along. Don't skip, because this is the moment when their plans started becoming clearer. After hearing those words, this person spent a long time reflecting alone. They imagined the first honest conversation they might have with you. Not a dramatic confession. Not a sudden emotional moment. But a calm, sincere conversation where they finally speak openly about what they feel. They imagined looking into your eyes and simply saying the truth. That you have been on their mind more often than they expected. That something about your connection feels meaningful. And that they believe it deserves a chance to grow. Stay till the end, because the timing they are waiting for might surprise you. They are not rushing. Instead, they are watching for a moment that feels natural, a moment where speaking honestly would feel effortless rather than forced. A moment when both of you are present, relaxed, and open. Because they want the truth they share with you to feel genuine. But here is the fascinating part. Their relative believes that the moment they are waiting for may arrive much sooner than they think. Why? Because sometimes when two people share a meaningful connection, life begins arranging small opportunities for them to move closer. Unexpected meetings. Simple conversations. Moments that feel ordinary, yet carry the potential to change everything. And recently, something happened that made this person feel that such a moment may be approaching. A small coincidence. A quiet reminder of you appearing when they least expected it. It made them stop and think. Maybe the time to speak honestly is not far away anymore. Something huge is waiting for you, and the next part reveals the surprising signal that convinced them the moment they have been waiting for could be closer than ever. A quiet shift is happening in their heart right now. the kind of shift that only appears when someone finally accepts what they have been feeling all along. For days after that conversation with their relative, this person tried to return to their normal routine. But something inside them had changed. Every ordinary moment now carried a small reminder of you. A passing thought. A sudden memory. A simple moment of silence where your name appeared in their mind without warning. And each time it happened, they felt the same realization growing stronger. This connection is no longer something they can quietly ignore. Don't skip this moment, because what they experienced next made them realize the time for silence may be ending. One evening, while reflecting again on everything they had shared with their relative, they asked themselves a question that felt impossible to avoid. What if the opportunity to speak honestly is closer than I think? The thought stayed with them longer than expected. Because when someone begins asking that question, it means the heart has already started moving toward action. Stay till the end, because the realization that followed was something they never expected to admit out loud. They understood that waiting forever was never truly their intention. The waiting was only there because they wanted the moment to feel right. But now, something feels different. The hesitation that once surrounded their feelings has started fading. In its place, a quiet confidence has appeared. Not loud. Not rushed. But steady. Something huge is waiting for you, and it is connected to the plan they quietly revealed to their relative. During their most recent conversation, the relative asked them directly, "So what will you say when the moment finally arrives?" This time, they did not hesitate. They answered with a calm honesty that surprised even themselves. They said they would simply tell you the truth. That meeting you changed something in their perspective. That your presence brought a kind of warmth they did not expect to feel. And that the connection between you deserves a real chance to grow. The relative listened carefully and then shared something remarkable. They said that sometimes the most powerful words are not the dramatic ones. Sometimes the most powerful words are the simplest ones, spoken at exactly the right moment. Don't skip, because this is where the story becomes even more surprising. After hearing that advice, this person started paying attention to something they had overlooked before. The moments when your path and theirs naturally cross. The conversations that appear without planning. The small opportunities that life quietly places in front of two people who are meant to speak. And recently, they noticed something that made their heart pause. A moment where reaching out to you suddenly felt possible. Not forced. Not complicated. Just natural. That moment made them realize something important. The opportunity they have been waiting for might already be beginning to appear. Stay till the end. Because the thought that followed filled them with a sense of anticipation they could not ignore. They started imagining how you might react when they finally speak openly. Would you be surprised? Would you smile? Would you reveal that you felt a similar connection but simply never expected them to say it first? These questions have been quietly living in their thoughts ever since. And with every passing day, the idea of speaking honestly with you feels less distant. Because when a person finally accepts the truth of their feelings, the next step slowly becomes inevitable. Something huge is waiting for you. Not in some distant future, but in a moment that may arrive sooner than either of you expect. And in the next part, you will discover the exact sign that made this person realize they may not wait much longer to tell you what their heart has been holding all this time. Sometimes the heart recognizes a turning point before the mind fully understands it. And that is exactly where this person now stands. Over the past few days, something inside them has been quietly preparing for a moment they can no longer ignore. It started with a small event that seemed ordinary at first. But to them, it felt meaningful. While going about their day, they unexpectedly heard your name mentioned in a conversation nearby. No planning, no connection to the situation, just a simple moment where your name appeared out of nowhere. For most people, that would mean nothing. But for them, it felt like a reminder they could not overlook. Don't skip this part, because what they realized in that moment made their decision clearer than ever before. They paused and asked themselves a question that had been quietly building inside their thoughts. How long can I keep these feelings unspoken? The silence that followed that question revealed the truth. Not much longer. Because every time they imagine the possibility of speaking openly with you, the feeling that rises inside them is not anxiety. It is hope. Stay till the end, because the realization that followed was something their relative had predicted all along. Later that evening, they spoke with that same relative again. And before they could even explain what had been on their mind, the relative noticed something immediately. A different energy. A calm determination that had replaced the hesitation they once carried. So the relative asked them something very simple. Are you ready? The question felt direct, but it was exactly what they needed to hear. For the first time, they answered without uncertainty. Yes. I think I am. Those words carried a quiet weight. Because saying them meant accepting that the moment they have been waiting for might arrive very soon. Something huge is waiting for you. And the reason lies in the plan they are now shaping more clearly. They explain to their relative that they are no longer waiting for a perfect situation. Instead, they are waiting for a genuine,